All right, so we are recording and I am going to start letting people in. Hello, everyone. Welcome.
Hi, Laurel.
Hello.
Hi, everybody.
Hi. Good
Well,
to see you guys.
Welcome, everyone. My name is Meredith Dayton. There are a lot of names that I do not know. I am on staff here in my house, but at the eBell of Los Angeles. Welcome to today's program. A few things. If you can remain on chat during Beverly's talk, that is helpful for background noise. So if you can be unmuted now to say hello, but just make sure you stay muted for, gardeners, dogs. I have someone doing tile. Any questions? next door. Any questions? We're going to have time after the presentation for live questions if you like, but if you want to put them in the chat, Phyllis will be monitoring that as well. We are also recording this program and we will put it on the website for members in a few days. And then finally, if you are having trouble with your picture and you cannot figure out how to get on camera, we'd love to see your face. Natalie, you got to stay on mute. I can hear your phone. There we go. Please unmute now and I can help you get on camera because we like to see as many people as possible. And there's a lot of them.
I'm not on camera. My name is Phyllis Siegel.
Hey, hi there. I see you're on are you on a phone?
Yes.
Okay, you're on a phone that does not have a camera.
Okay.
It seems like I don't have the option of turning your camera on for you. So
Okay.
you may, so I think you're just gonna be voice only.
I'll just listen. That's fine.
Okay, great.
Hi, Phyllis.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good, sweetie.
Hi, Bev.
How you guys?
It's Sharon. I have
Sharon.
backlighting, so I can never see me.
Hi, Bev. This is Doris Dillon. Congratulations.
Oh, thank you, Doris. Good to see you guys.
Hi, Beverly.
Hey, Bev.
Hey, you guys.
Hi.
Good to see you, Bev. God, it's great to see you, except I can't see you and you can't see me. So I'm going to be listening.
But I can hear your voice, Phyllis.
Hey,
Okay.
Bev.
Clarence in the background. Hi, Clarence.
Clarence.
Oh.
Hey, Bev, it's Eddie.
Hi, Eddie. How you doing? That's
I'm
my
hanging.
brother, you guys.
Oh, where?
I don't see me on the screen yet, so I don't know. Oh, see, it's a third screen.
Who's on the screen?
Hi, Ed. I asked you, Edward, I asked you to start your video. If you hit yes,
All
we
right.
should be able to see you. Here we go. There you go.
And
Excellent.
that's my sister.
Hi, Yvonne.
Hello.
Oh, wait, where's Yvonne? Hi, Yvonne.
Hi, Teresa.
Haven't seen you in years.
Hello, everyone. I'm going to just make a few announcements again for those who are still coming on. We're going to start in a few minutes. We just have a large group today. Welcome to our membership spotlight. My name is Meredith Dayton. I am on staff with the eBell of Los Angeles. A few things. If you can remain on mute during the presentation, it helps with any background noise. We will have time after the presentation for live questions, but you can also put your questions into the chat. Phyllis Hansen, our board board program director, will be monitoring the chat. Also, we are, see, that's the tile. I don't know if you can hear it. We are also recording this program for the website and it will be available in a few days. And then finally, if your camera is not on and we can't see you and you want to be seen, you can unmute now and I can help you get your video going. We're going to start in 1 minute.
Hello, Mia. Hey, Dad. How you doing? Hey, Mom.
Hi, Mia.
Hey, Mom and Dad. Hey,
Oh.
Hi, Giselle.
So many pretty young women
Oh,
and handsome young men. Hi, Miss Mia.
Hi, T. It's good to see you and everybody.
Great to see you, sweetie.
Love you, Mia.
Love
Hey,
you,
Hello.
honey.
love you. I love you. Thanks so much. You're
Hello,
great.
Teresa.
See you.
Oh, hi, Eddie. Hi, Mary Castleberry. Oh, hi, Gail. Boy, I know half the people here.
Hey, Eddie.
Love
Yes,
it.
sir.
Eddie. Kim.
Hi, Kim.
Hey, Mia. Hey, girl.
Get that.
Oh,
think-
hi,
I
Mary.
think-
I'm
Hi,
going to ask.
Mary.
I
How
think
will
Brian,
non-members get access to the video?
Well, it's typically available to members only on the website, but I'm going to forward it to Beverly, so you can contact her.
Hi, Beverly.
Hi, sweet. Oh, Betty.
Hey.
How are you, girl?
Hey,
Good to see you. That's my
Hi, Beverly. Hi,
Claire.
Hi, Betty.
hey, Betty.
Clarence.
Brian's on here too, Bev.
Hey, Eddie. Okay, I think we're gonna start. We have a few latecomers, but again, if you are unmuted, if you can mute yourself now, I will do the same as soon as I'm done with my speech. It will be helpful for background noise. Great. Any questions, please put it in the chat.
And I'm muting myself.
Oh, I will mute you, Mary. There you go. Okay, so if you can stay muted, it's helpful. Chat, questions in the chat. We'll have time afterwards for live questions. Recording will be on the website in a few days. And now I'm going to pass it over. There's still people coming in. I'm going to pass it over to Phyllis Hanson, our board director of programs. Phyllis, take.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me?
Phyllis.
Hi.
Hi.
So, Meredith, we told everybody we're recording, right? I guess.
Yes, we did.
Yeah. Okay, good. Welcome. Looks like we've got a part going on here today. That's very exciting. Oh, lots of fans. So, just wanted to welcome everyone to the eBell. I believe we have a lot of guests here today. So I'll do a little special welcome to our club. If you don't know anything about us, we are have been a club since 1894. We have been in our landmark building since 1927, which we're very anxious to get back into. Hopefully in a few months, we'll be able to start live programming again, and we welcome you all to come to see us there too. So we also welcome anybody can become a member. We're always looking for new members. So get on our website, read a little about us, or since you all know Beverly, it seems that she can tell you a little bit about us too, but we welcome everyone as a guest or a member. And as board director of programs, I just want to welcome you back. All of our programs right now are complimentary, so you can check our website for all of the upcoming great things we have planned. We do several programs a week. Next Monday is Backyard Birds of Los Angeles, which I think is going to be another extremely popular program, judging by the registration so far. So come see us Monday. So I am going to turn this over to Catherine Hicks, who is our chair for our member spotlights, who is going to tell us a little bit about, introduce us to Beverly.
Thanks,
Catherine?
Phyllis. Thanks, Phyllis. Beverly Clarkson, my Lord, you have so many fans and friends. That's so exciting. Welcome to all of your friends. And do think about joining our club. It's really, it's got a lot of depth. It's not just, it's not a golf club. We do interesting things. I talked with Beverly. She's so delightful to talk to and so calm. I would be so nervous, but you're a cool lady. I asked 3 questions just of everyone, because it sort of opens people to, gives a little insight. Her favorite food is shrimp scampi. Her favorite childhood activity was pedaling her red fire truck down the street. Can picture that, can't you? We probably all did similar things. And her favorite childhood memory is listening to her mother read to her from her mother's journal. Perhaps that's where the seed of writing began with her. I'll turn it over now to the fabulous Beverley Clarkson.
Wow.
Beverly, it looks like your camera might have moved a little bit. You might want to pull it down a little bit. We can, yes.
Okay.
Perfect. Thank you.
Well, I am so overwhelmed by the turnout. But I wanted to personally thank Catherine, Phyllis, and Meredith of eBell for giving me this opportunity. It is so special to me, and I am so grateful that you called and asked me to do this. I want to thank all my friends and family joining me. I told them I didn't want to be on this Zoom by myself. And so I appreciate all of you coming out and listening to me today. 2 of my siblings are here, my daughter is here, and you can see my husband sitting right behind me.
He's handsome.
Well, you know, we all have stories to tell. The question for me became, how do you grab the soul of your characters? And how do you engage your reader? There has to be something the reader gets from their investment in your stories or in your book that leaves an impression. Finally, as an author, you have to find a compelling reason for wanting to write. After all, look at all the time it takes. And not only the time, but you are devoted personally to the writing. And writing is a solo experience. There's no one patting you on the back saying, I love your work. In fact, if you don't have a following or know someone in the industry, you can't even get an agent. So my books are self-published because I wanted to share my stories with others. My books are about family. Family under the best of circumstances and families at their worst. My grandmother was born and raised in Jamaica, British West Indies at the time, now just West Indies, as were my parents. My 2 older brothers and me were born in Jamaica as well. And we moved to Indianapolis, Indiana in 1950, December of 1950, to join our father who was already here and a student at Butler University. I should say a part-time student at Butler University and in the field of divinity. He wanted to be a minister here in America. In my first book, It's of No Consequence, and you may be able to see, Clarence had gotten me this screen when I had my first book reading. And so with that, I wanted to talk a little bit about that.
Beverly, excuse me, could you just tilt your camera up because we cut off at your mouth? And we want to see your, no, the other way.
The other way, down
A little bit more. There we go. Thank you.
Yes.
Perfect. Thank you.
Does that help?
Excellent, excellent.
Okay, thank you. And I was saying, It's of No Consequence is my first book. And I used a patois to capture the essence of my grandmother's voice, its rhythm, its cadences, its melodic timbre. Her voice was like music to me. I'm going to read you a little bit from the first chapter. And this is page 12, because I know some of you've read my book before. The moisture in the air from the warm water opened the pores of my skin, and my body felt like I had just stepped out of the tub myself. My left arm rested on a cool, wide, rounded rim of the tub. My grandmother still in the lukewarm water as we approached the end of the bath ritual. And this is when my grandmother would come to my home and to take a bath because she only had a shower in her apartment. That day, my grandmother looked at me fragilely and pleaded one last time. Her eyes were shiny, but bordered on exasperation. "You must remember, Miss Story," she repeated. "You understand me, Mistress Bess?" Her voice was gently begging. "You must remember, Miss Story." She looked frightened, as if the removal of her clothing had somehow removed my memories of her life. "Yes, grandmother," I said immediately, trying to sound cheerful and engaging. "I understand and I remember." She stared at me momentarily. Softness in her face and eyes returned, believing me, yes. And she closed her eyes. The words to the hymn she was humming earlier drifted again through my mind, floating like imaginary molten feathers from my grandmother's favorite porcelain figurine, the owl. I thought again about the impact of my grandmother's life on my own. The hymn was, "I love to tell a story of unseen things above." The words and the melody crescendo through my thoughts, tugging at me and gently touched my heart. "Yes, grandmother, as your dutiful granddaughter, I would love to tell your story." So, interestingly enough, that was kind of my compelling reason for writing and putting all this stuff together. I did it initially for my grandmother while I had the thoughts and memories of my mother writing her memories all along as well. I named the book "It's of No Consequence" because as a teenager, I talked with my grandmother about her life. I wanted to know things that were kind of missing that didn't quite make sense. I wanted to know those things. And every time I would ask her questions about her life, she would say to me, "It's of no consequence, child. Too late to examine now." So I never really got the answers that I wanted from my grandmother. But I understood that my grandmother was free to be whomever she wanted to be and free to whomever she wanted me to think she was. And so we go with her story. My grandmother was brought up in a well-to-do home with the best crystal, the best porcelain china, horses, carriages, boarding schools, and help of all kinds, because Jamaica had a caste system. So their family had housekeepers, cooks, groundsmen, all these people all around trying to make life wonderful for this family. When my grandmother was sent to boarding school, she came home pregnant. And this was a time in her life that she wasn't prepared for. And unfortunately, neither were her relatives. So after the baby was born, and the baby was my mother, and you see her picture right there, my grandmother was sent to Cuba to live with my grandfather's brother and his family. So it was her uncle. So I'm going to page 66 now, for those of you who have my book. And it reads, on the ride to the port at Black River, because my grandmother is leaving everything she's known all her life, and she's going to live in a new place, completely new, everything new, in Cuba. So that morning, Phyllis stared blindly into the dimness of the early morning when she saw Edanie, one of the house help, emerge from the field into the dirt path. Their eyes connected in the awakening dawn. To the driver, had to slow down to avoid hitting her, startling the horses. The kerosene lantern hanging from the front of the carriage cast a glow upon Edanie's narrow face. Former companions, but now neither the rider nor the walker raised their hands excitedly over their heads as they had done in their familial exchanges as a child, whenever Phyllis left for boarding school. But that morning, simultaneously, the girls, now women, spoke in a nonverbal language they developed as children when told to be quiet. From each companion body, their two hands, side by side, barely touched their lips. Me. Both hands crossed their chests. Love. And ending with hands extended out from their bodies, palms up. You. Heartache shot through Phyllis. She was emotionally full, but did not cry. She took a deep breath, pulling her shoulders back, allowing air more easily to penetrate her lungs. She returned to her sitting position while staring straight ahead in the seductive sweetness of the morning glories. She began singing in her soprano voice a hymn taught to her by a classmate in the garden. The words diminished her pain, cloaked her in singular comfort, and drowned out the baby's wailing in the background. I come to the garden alone while the dew is still on the roses, and the voice I hear falling on my ear, the Son of God discloses. So a lot went on, and there were many changes in Phyllis's life that she didn't understand, and she was angry about what happened to her. And so when she got to her uncle's home in Cuba, they were very gracious to her and willing to support her. And they didn't really know about the baby she had left behind. But one day, a couple of years later, she gets a telegram, and with money in it. And the telegram was to tell her that her mother had passed. So here's Phyllis with her uncle. And she says, "Me thanks you, uncle," she said tenderly as she left him standing, looking as though she had struck him. On page 84, in the warmth of her small room, Phyllis fought. "Me no cry." She wanted to shout it out, but did not. Instead, Phyllis now began a low, guttural babbling to herself. "Him thinks he can just send for me. He thinks I can change the course of my life. What do they want from me?" she said as she quietly closed the bedroom door, mindful of her uncle in the other room. "Him thinks they would live forever. They die. Me dead already. These people nothing to me. Nothing, you hear me, Lord? Me refuse to remember the pain they caused me. No, that was not me. That girl is dead. She died. You hear? They can bloody well go to hell. These people no hurt me, Lord. Me no let them. Me no let them." So my grandmother goes on, and she is struggling with a lot of issues in Cuba. And then she goes back to Jamaica, and she's struggling with issues there and still pretending like she didn't have a child. But her uncle Harold stayed on her case about her having a daughter and that she needed to step to the plate to take care of her daughter. Once my mother and grandmother got together, my grandmother decided that, oh, this is just too tough being a mother. This is not for me. And so she made my mother's life miserable as well. But later on, she was having trouble, and this is later in her life. She was having trouble in Jamaica. She was probably in her late 60s. And so my mother, who living in Annapolis, Indiana, wanted her to come there with our family so that she could get the support that she needed. So during that time, my grandmother was determined to make a new life for herself, and she did. She was a seamstress, and so she was able to get a job and do all those kinds of things. Later, I was pregnant with my first child, and so I asked my grandmother if she would come to California to help me, and she agreed, and she came, and every day with her, with me and Clarence, was very helpful and hopeful. She, in fact, decided that she needed more independence in her life. So she decided that she would move to Compton, California, where she could get an apartment at a reasonable rate. So I'm going to the book now, because at that apartment, my grandmother was, thank you. At that apartment, my grandmother was assaulted. And with that, my grandmother on her own decided that she would testify in court. And so I felt so badly for her, but Clarence and I did not want to influence her decision in any way. She was going to make that decision on her own, and she did. So in the courtroom, the judge says, call your next witness. I'm on page 230 now. Your Honor, the defense called Muhammad. Muhammad stood smiling with ease as he approached the witness box. He appeared to be about 32. He was sworn in by the bailiff. When asked questions by both attorneys, he smiled almost flirtatiously, looking at my grandmother while speaking about the relationship they shared. As he told about that day of the incident, he repeated, "She is my girlfriend." Well, my grandmother didn't like that. My grandmother jumped up from her chair and shouted, "You no boyfriend, young man. You thinks me let you violate me so?" She was shaking as her thin arms clutched the edge of the mahogany table. "You have no home training, sir." The judge banged his gavel hard against the podium, shouting, "Counselor, you will instruct your client to be quiet or she will be held in contempt of court. Have I made myself clear?" Clarence and I pulled grandmother to her seat. She was still trembling with anger. "You hear what him say, Miss Bevs?" She said in a loud whisper. "Yes, grandmother. You have to be quiet. You have to be calm. You have to stay seated." Now the courtroom shattered in dissatisfaction, and the commotion continued. "Chaman, he can lie, and me have to be quiet." "Chaman." She spat the words out like she intended to hit a spittoon. "Come on, grandmother," I coaxed. "It will be over soon." I whispered as I placed my cheek next to hers and feeling the burn. Her skin was on fire, even though the room was barely tepid with the air conditioner. "Just calm down. We're here, grandmother. Just calm down," I whispered. In the end, my grandmother survived that tragedy in her life, and the young man was sentenced. And following that, she went through a number of illnesses, and Clarence and I were there to help her during that time. And it was hard for her, and we recognized that. My grandmother had begged me to tell my mother to please come She wanted to see her daughter before she took her last breath. And so my mother decided, yes, she would come. And she said, I'm not coming for your grandmother, Beverly. I'm coming for you. I'm coming to support you. So I said, fine, just get here as quickly as you can. And my mother did come. My grandmother passed away, and she knew when she was going, you know, that eerie sense of when people know, and she just told me right out, you know, I won't be here then. And so after my grandmother's funeral and all the guests had left, I'm now on page 273. My mother sat at the dining room table, consumed in pain. In that very house my grandmother proclaimed should have been hers, which is my home. My brothers, sisters, and I tried to comfort her, but to no avail. Between perforated sobs, my mother uttered, she never once told me that she loved me. My mother was in her 60s, and this omission still shattered her spirit and broke her constitution. She never said she loved me, tumbled over and over, spilling out of my mother's mouth, out of her mind, out of her heart. My grandmother never talked about her time with my mother, with me, or with my mother. She commented instead, it's of no consequence, Miss Bess. Why trouble yourself with such matters now? Me don't know where or what your grandmother, your mother wants from me. So that's my first story. What's my timing?
That was lovely.
Okay.
3:35.
Yeah, we're okay. We're
Okay,
3:35,
good.
about 20 minutes.
All right. Here's my second story. My second book, Rightfully Hers, is based on my mother's journal, with snippets of my life with my brothers and sisters woven in. In contrast to the life my grandmother lived after the death of her mother and great-grandmother, my mother was raised as a pauper child with no shoes, no clothing. My mother started writing this journal when I was a little girl. And while my mother's writing, I'm going through all of her jewelry and makeup, and I'm just having a good time at the mirror, and I can see my mother in the background writing, and as she writes, she cries. And here's one section. This is on page 46 of Rightfully Hers. I even in those early days prayed to die. Sometimes I lost faith because I would sit and cry. I mean, really cry, because my life didn't seem worthwhile to live. I couldn't understand why mine was the way it was. I couldn't understand why I had to hide and watch other children go to Sunday school. I looked so bad. I couldn't let them see me looking at them. So I would hide and watch them with their parents wearing pretty little dresses It seems like now just a dream, but it's the truth that I'm writing on this paper, so I use black ink. My mother, after the death of her grandmother and grandmother, went to live with an aunt who did not want her at all and felt that her mother was ruining her life, because this, after all, was her child. And my mother's aunt didn't have any children. So she was told that she had to take care of my mother. And this was not something she wanted to do. So my mother writes in her book, this is on page 55. Life with my aunt as I see it now was horrible. And it makes me wonder now and more every day why any woman who's a mother would also treat another woman's child the way she treated me. If I even asked a question, I never got an answer. In other words, I was just some kind of animal, but life went on day after day. I was sure some way I could get out of it. And so my mother continued her efforts to locate her parents and her mother and her father. And later on, even though Phyllis took her own good time, knowing this child was where she was, the father that my mother was able to make contact with tried to send her little things, gifts, clothing, things like that. So this one day, a package had come for her. And in the package was a dress that her father had sent for her, a beautiful dress. And her little 4-year-old cousin, who she took care of, was confused by this gift and said to her, "Why him buy you a little one?" But she held that dress her father sent, held it close to her heart, soft like a baby's breath, not the harsh jute sack she was wearing. That was until her aunt took it from her and probably sold it to a neighbor. Later on, my mother talks about her father. And in one of her journal writings, she called him Dad. And it was kind of like she recognized him in my mind for the first time as really her father. Because I didn't know, I had never met her father. And so I come in from school one day and my mother's sitting at the dining room table and she's crying. And I say, "What's wrong, Mother? Why are you crying?" My mother just sat quietly at the end of the mahogany table, not an expensive one, but large enough to accommodate her children. She didn't answer, but tears made their way down her tired, placid face. She had just returned from work, picking up mail. She held a letter in her hand. I knew it was from Jamaica because I could see the thin blue cast paper with red, white, and blue airmail wings between her fingers. She barely looked up, then handed me the thin envelope that opened into a letter serving a dual purpose. This is on page 101. "He's dead," my mother said in an exhausted whisper. She inhaled, then exhaled. I had so much to tell him. And he's dead. She gazed into the ceiling. God, why didn't I get a chance to tell him? She seemed so fragile initially, but then I sensed anger in her as she repeated herself. What did you want to tell him? I asked it quietly. What could it be? Now tears trickled down my own face. For the grandfather I didn't even remember meeting, yet honestly felt like I had, probably as an infant or a toddler. Never saw a picture of him, but mostly the tears were for my mother. She sat, quietly heaving in pain for what seemed like an eternity, unable to speak. My mother broke the deafening silence when she uttered softly between weighted sobs, I wanted to tell him that he was my father. I wanted to hear from him. Tears poured profusely down my mother's face. I, in quiet support, just waited. Damn it to hell, my mother shouted. He was my father. Her voice raising now as the infernal fueled the hurt from years past. I placed my hand on her hand, feeling the warmth beneath my skinny fingers, waited. Then she slipped her hand away and said stiffly, it's not my duty to write. He was my father, for God's sake, for God's sake. Her voice drifted off as she repeated over and over like the rhythm of a rosary. He was my father after all. He was my father after all. Later in my mother's journal, I thought it was very compelling that she told about the loss of her first child. And so on page 108, she says, oh, my beautiful baby never lived. There was a little part of me that went with her. I can tell you, it's no fun carrying a baby for 9 months and going home empty-handed. They did not let me see her after she was dressed. They just took her away and buried her. Oh, that was a little cruel. A lone tear mounted the lower lid of my mother's right eye and tumbled over like cotton balls over familiar paths on her face, landing graciously on her left hand. The gold wedding band caught my eye as a tear neared its circumference. It symbolized the union of my parents. Ironically, my father never mentioned the daughter he lost, and my mother never forgot her. She would be my big sister. I would have loved that. And so my mother continues her story. And she was dealing with health issues as well now. Congestive heart failure was the reason for her death. And so I was with my mother at the time she passed. And so on chapter 17, page 207, I say, I think back on that day sometimes. Glad I was walking with my mother, sharing our last time together, her last time on earth. Even in death, my mother was proud. She had reconciled the pain of her childhood. She probably would have written in her journal, Daphne still searching and seeking new adventures. As she crossed into the next realm, she didn't need me to accompany her. However, Since she spent a lifetime preparing me for her death, it was my honor to walk with her that one last time. So how did I come up with this title? Rightfully Hers. And on page 20, on page 222 and page 223, I kind of sum it up. And I said, I felt that my mother rightfully deserved to be loved, cared for, sent to school, as well as surrounded by adults who valued her as a child, who listened to her, wanted to hear her questions, and embraced her when she was fearful. Adults who made a world a better place for her. I felt these gifts were rightfully hers. So I want to
Thank you.
Thank you guys for listening to me.
That was lovely, Beverly.
Thank you.
I believe we didn't know that we would also, you're an actress too. You brought the words to life. You acted out scenes. I don't think we knew we'd be getting that. And I also think as you went through these family moments, it triggered in all of us things in our lives with our parents and siblings and children that we could relate to. So thank you.
And thank you.
We can open to questions.
I have one.
Phyllis, you're still muted.
Oh.
Oh, Martha, go ahead.
Hi. When's number 3? I read the other 2 twice already.
Thanks, Martha. My third book should be out by fall, September or October. And it's about my life with my brothers. And so it's called Hold On Kids. And it was an expression that my mother, she would take us out on Sunday afternoon rides and she'd tell us, hold on, kids, as she zoomed through cornfields and we just had a good time.
Wow.
And so that's why I called the story Hold On Kids. And I selected for the front of the book a picture of my 2 older brothers and me holding on to my mother. I'm sitting on her lap. And so that will be my next book. And it's really a collection of short stories because there were so many things that happened with my brothers and me and my life growing up. I even included a couple of pieces from my professional life, things that had happened there. And but at any rate, I think you will enjoy that one. And so, Martha, I'm hoping you'll read that one too.
I promise.
Thank you.
Kathy Seal has a question.
Hi, Beverly.
Hi, Kathy.
It's wonderful seeing your family here and meeting.
Oh, thank you, Kathy. Kathy's in my writing group.
The question I'd like to ask you is, you mentioned at the beginning that you want to touch the soul. I think you said that.
Yes.
And how do you just do that intuitively, or can you tell us how you do that in your writing? What are your guideposts to doing that?
Interesting. In terms of the characters, I find that once I know the storyline and I start thinking about the characters, that they just pop open. They jump out. I have to shut them up. They have so much to tell me and so much they want to tell other people. So I somehow intuitively am able to pull from the characters in my books their life, their heart. And so I continue to strive to work at that, to make my characters feel like real people and supported in the vein of having a real friend or a real confidant, or having people who care about you deeply.
Mm. Thank you.
And thank you, Kathy, for all your help.
Can you tell us a little bit about your writing group and what you do there and how that impacts your books?
Well, our writing group meets once a month, and each one of us submits our writing to the group, and we only submit 5 pages at a time, because otherwise we'd be spending our whole life reading other people's writing. But when we take a look at each other's writing, we try to discuss with the author things that we had questions about, or things that we loved in their writing, or the humor that was expressed, or the feelings of between family members that was expressed. So those are things that we do, and it's very helpful to have another set of eyes to say, what do you mean by this? What does this mean? I've never heard that before. Or, oh, I love that. You know, so you get those little feedbacks, and it helps you clarify your writing.
I have a question here from someone who wants to know how you get to the soul of your book. What do you do to get there?
Oh, that was me. I already asked it.
Oh, same question. Okay.
It looks like Patricia Dunn also has her hand up.
Oh, thank you. I was trying to look for the little hand on the side, but I couldn't find it. Beverly, I'm just hoping, because you're home, you might have a picture of Norman. I'm so curious to see him. He's a character that I'm fond of.
In fact, in my last book, there is a picture of Norman.
Oh,
I'm not
good.
sure if you guys will be able to see it this way. Let me see.
Oh, we can see it good. How cute.
Oh, he's so cute.
Yeah, he's very cute.
Yeah,
But
he was my buddy growing up.
Well, he sounded like he was very protective of you also.
Oh, he is.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Are there many family pictures in your books?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
And in my third book, there are other family pictures.
Can we see you?
Here's a picture of my oldest brother.
Oh, how
That's a picture of Orlando.
He's cute too.
Here's a picture of Yvonne, and Yvonne is on the screen. She's here today too.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh, that's so cute. Oh, look at that party dress.
Yeah, she was a neat little kid. I loved taking care of her. And not that I had any choice, but
Beverly, how old were you when you left Jamaica?
4
4
years old.
And if I could quickly ask, when this being sent to Cuba, was that out of family embarrassment because it was a birth out of wedlock? Why?
Absolutely, absolutely. And my grandmother had never been to Cuba, so it was all a brand new experience. And you know, it happens everywhere.
Of course.
And, you know, when we think back, when I think back of friends that happened to in the United States, well, they could just go to another state and be with relatives. But in Jamaica, everybody would have known. So that's why she was sent to Cuba to be with relatives there.
Wow.
It's like a real life Downton Abbey.
Yes.
Yes.
And here's a picture of me when I first came to America. And this was the outfit my father had brought for me to the plane when I got off the plane.
You look so wise for your age.
Oh,
I
that's so sweet.
I have a picture of Eddie, and Eddie's with us today. Can you see that?
Yes.
That was back in the day.
Yes, it was, Eddie.
You are a cool dude. Handsome. Still are. Yeah.
Beverly, you gotta send us that copy of that picture of Eddie. I gotta have that picture.
Okay.
Get out of here, Frank.
Thanks, Frank.
Frank, we got you covered.
Here's a good question. Madeline asks us, what other authors inspired you and what's on your bookshelf?
What other authors? I love Prince of Tide. And you guys remember all of the,
oh my God, yes.
all the pain that family went through.
Oh my God.
That's one of my favorite books. And May You Be the Mother of 1,000 Sons. There's so many, and I belong to a book club, so we read 20 books a year in addition to whatever else we read. And in fact, some of my book club members are here too. And Teresa Riddle has been really helpful in keeping our book club going for over 20 years. And we've read hundreds of books in those 20 years. And so it's important to take a look at where we come from and how we support other writers, because it helps you in developing your own thought processes.
And we have a house full of books.
I just want to say you have so many friends. Again, we would love to have you all be part of our eBell family. It's like I said, it's a reasonable and intellectual and socially active and aware group of people. So it'd be great to see you again.
Indeed.
Hey, Bev.
So Beverly, do your children, are they going to be authors themselves and write about you?
Well, they wouldn't have much to say about me other than they watch me write. But my daughter, she's here today too. Mia Clarkson. Hi, honey.
Hello.
And Mia is really good at writing.
Wow.
She doesn't want to write. You know, you can't make her. She doesn't want to do it. She is the person in the family who would be an outstanding writer.
Thanks, Mom. That takes a lot of patience to do what you do.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
but I
true.
bet you have a very exciting job, though it not be writing.
I do have a question, Mom, though, that I think, might be thoughtful for your friends and others on the call. Great grandma wanted you to write her story. And at times, it really wasn't flattering for her. How did you work that out? How do you wrestle with that? Yeah.
It's true. And sometimes when I think back on it, I know she told me to tell her story. But sometimes I think, well, I guess I could have left that out, or I could have left that out. But
Right.
But I decided to just be as honest as I could, because she made life very painful for my mother.
Right.
But my mother was willing to pull her in and let her be a part of our lives.
Right.
So I think my grandmother would reconcile the stories that I've shared.
Right.
And I don't think she'd be too angry with me, Mia.
No, it's just not easy.
It's not.
And I totally get it.
And Clarence and I had to be here for her, to support her through those horrible things that happened.
Right. Right.
Hey, Bev,
Huh?
you know, between Mom, you, and Orlando, when you talk about taking care of all of us, those are the three people that come to mind for me, looking back over the years. You guys were just unbelievable. And some of the things that the readers are getting to read about, some of those things are coming true for us too, you know, because some of the things we didn't know. And when you start writing and going through Mom's journal, you know, you gave me a copy of that a long time ago. It's amazing how all that goes together, you know?
Yes. Yes.
So we do love you, you know that.
Well, you know I love you.
You know, this is
And
like
Eddie and Yvonne have spent a million summers and winters with me out here in California. They're special people.
I think it's an inspiration to all of us to sort of look at our own families. There's drama in everyone's family, and to not only sort of organize it, but think of it as a story, and also not be afraid to express the embarrassing or painful parts. It's healthier, and you leave something for the future members to read. Yeah.
The irony is that Bev has been the mother to everyone, including my mother and my grandmother.
Oh.
She was everyone's mother. Everyone.
Wow.
Beverly?
Good thing you didn't make me spank you, Yvonne.
One time you got me. And it was because my mouth was too smart.
It still is.
I was always so nice that you didn't have to spank me either.
Well, it's true. Eddie was very calm and collected.
We have a listener wants to know if you kept a journal growing up, like your mother did.
No, I never kept a journal. But I think a journal was kept in my head. I would always pay attention everywhere I went. I was not a talker, I was a listener. So I was able to.
I have a question.
Oh, okay. So I was able to capture in my memory my own journal.
I'd like to
That's
ask a question.
fascinating.
Beverly?
Who's that?
Betty, are you trying to ask your question? If you are, if you can turn off your camera, we can't hear you. And I bet if you turn off your camera, we'll be able to hear you.
Did you hear her, Betty? Betty, you have to turn off your camera.
She's frozen right now. So maybe we'll come back to her.
Beverly, can I ask you something?
Sure, Alma.
Yeah. We've talked a little bit about you know, what I'm doing. I'm writing my memoirs too. But it's interesting because it's a total different side, because I'm not talking about my parents or grandparents. I'm talking definitely about my life, how it was. And I grew up in an island right next to the Dominican Republic.
That's right.
And then, you know, then went to Europe and then came to the United States. But it's interesting because in my case, my parents never talked about their past. They would not, my parents were refugees from Europe, from the war, and they would not tell anything. And so my thought was, I want to start from day one, from when I was a child.
Somebody else's.
I have so many books by what I wrote, you know, my memoirs all the time, because I want my daughter to realize what life was before, and just a little bit how hard it was for the grandparents. But even though I didn't, you know, I never met them because they died in the war. But it's so good that you are able to write it for your family, how your grandmother was and how your mother was. I want my daughter to be the same way, you know, that someday she would understand why people are sometimes doing what they're doing, because they have to, you know.
Yes.
Your grandmother had to, I mean, in those days, having a child with, you know, not being married must have been horrible.
Absolutely.
And my parents didn't want to talk about it because it was too painful. You know, they didn't know what happened. And so I'm just writing everything, and I'm almost done with mine too. But it's, you know, just so that she understands why I'm a certain way, or why, you know, so it's very important to know that parents sometimes do things that they don't realize that they're hurting somebody in the family.
Exactly.
But then when you read why, or when you understand why, then they say, oh, that's why my mother was this way, or my grandmother, or whatever. So thank you for the book. I brought you, you know, I read your book twice.
I know, Alma, you're so special.
Yeah.
And you know, I have one item that I journaled, but I actually wrote what happened that day, and that was the day my daughter was born. I have that story in cement. So anytime my daughter wants to read it, she'll know what happened that day. So I do have that, but everything else was in my mind. And thank goodness I still have my mind, and I can still go with the things I remember, because that's not promised to everyone.
There's a comment here in the chat I want to share, because Frank Davis says he's been sharing Beverly's comments with his family via text, and 4 books have been sold while on this Zoom.
That's awesome.
I will actually, I'll put the link in too now if you want to. We talked about this ahead of time. If you want a signed copy of Beverly's book, you can go to the website that I will add, and she will send it to you.
Hey, Beverly.
And
this is Olive.
Hi, Olive. How are you?
I'm enjoying this. I'm enjoying that. I wanted to know if you had written before, and if you have thought of doing fiction. Have you got some good fiction stories up your sleeve?
You know, as I transitioned from the trilogy about my family, I will give that some thought. And I was hoping to take a look at maybe writing some children's stories where, you know, they would be fictional in thought. And so I haven't decided not to do fiction. But the nonfiction took quite a bit out of me. And my first book, It's of No Consequence, there are fictional accounts in there based on what I thought my mother and my grandmother had shared with me. So they're fictional accounts. Edanie, for example, one of the characters is a fictional account. And so Cook, another one of the characters, is a fictional account of what I thought my grandmother and mother shared with me.
Just to follow up quickly, have you been back to Jamaica? Have you been to Cuba? What have you found?
Well, I have been back to Jamaica 3 times since I was a middle school child. And when I went back as a middle school child, I went with my sister Yvonne and my other sister Elaine. And we went with my mother, and it was quite an experience for us at that time. Later, Clarence and I and Mia, we went back for vacations and with our family. And so life there was very complex. But we had a good time, and our relatives would try to do everything to make life special for us. And I remember once coming from the Blue Mountains, my cousin was coming to pick us up. And so my aunt said, "Oh, it's no problem. You know, my son will come and pick you up and take you wherever you need to go." Like that. Well, I didn't know that it took him 5 hours to get to our place. You know, so there are different things. And I remember a comment in one of my books. I say, if someone tells you and you're in Jamaica that it's around the corner, be assured
That it's 5 hours.
that it is a long, long way.
I think.
Beverly?
Oh,
Beverly? It's
Betty,
Betty.
oh, hi, Betty. You guys, Betty's my childhood friend.
I'm the neighbor. I'm in the car in Florida, so that's why I'm trying to keep up with everything. But
Okay,
just the fond memories of your brothers and sisters on the line. I just love them dearly, and your mom. You know, you and I have chatted about your work and how it's made me laugh, made me cry. And I never did ask you about the places that you mentioned in the book. They sound so real, the cities, and you describe these places as if you've done some research on those places. Was this part of your creativity, or did your mother tell you about these places, or how did you get the creativity to make them so vivid and so real to the reader?
Well, you know, Betty, those places are like embedded in my mind from being there as a little girl and being there as a young woman. So yes, I could describe them verbatim, because that's part of what I do. It's just embedded in my mind. And so I can easily just sit down and write about it. You look gorgeous, Betty.
I'm looking forward to the next one, because I know Eddie and Yvonne out there and Norman, and so I know everybody. So it just brought back such memories of your mother and your family, and love you dearly.
Well, love you too. Betty's been my friend since 2nd grade, you guys.
And Betty knows about a lot of that stuff anyway.
I do. I feel like I'm one of the sisters now.
Peggy Knight, do you still have a question?
I think we lost her. She clicked off.
Oh.
Well, I just want to say, I know your mom would be so proud of you because.
Oh, no, there's Peggy. Sorry.
Oh, sorry, I'll be quiet.
Peggy, did you still have a question? You're on, we can't hear you. Do you have a headset clicked into your computer? No, now you've muted it. Your voice is scrambled for some reason. Sorry. Okay.
We have one question. Lori wanted to know if you could talk a little bit about the process of self-publishing.
Well, certainly. I was out to dinner with my brother in Indiana and one of his friends,
Frank.
and it was a wonderful dinner. But at that dinner, my brother said, well, Frank has a friend who's self-published. And so Frank jumps in and says, yes, I'll tell you who she worked with, I'll give you a phone number. So Frank started me on this journey, and I found this young woman who was very helpful. And she not only helped me understand the business of writing, but she also helped me with the editing, the publishing, suggestions for book covers and all that kind of stuff. She was very helpful. And so I've used her for my first 2 books, and she's with Burke Media, and you'll see her emblem in my books. And so, yes, I have continued to use her. And I feel that she kind of understands me and how I would like to have things done. And she kind of gives me the leeway to do things the way I would like. Granted, I pay for it, but.
Yes.
Are we
Can you
wrapped
tell
up?
us a little
Oh,
bit about
sorry.
being your life as a teacher?
Oh, okay. I'm a retired school administrator, and I retired after 40 years with the Los Angeles Unified School District. And with that, I did a lot of writing as an administrator, because somebody has to write up all the things that don't go right. And so I would have to do that. So I was always writing. And so then when I retired in 2009, I decided that I would support my own writing. And so went from there. My first book probably took me 10 years. Yeah. Yeah, Clarence is right. He knows. And because I had to rewrite it and change voices and all kinds of stuff that I've done to that book over the years.
June Bilgore thinks that your voice is very melodic and wants to know if you got that from your grandmother.
I think probably, because my grandmother had a lot to say, but how she said it was so, it just grabbed you the way she talked. And whereas my mother was always laughing, and you would never have known that she had such a horrid childhood. She was laughing and playing jokes, and she ran with us. She could have been my girlfriend. My mother was so, she was just a special woman, and she wanted so much for her kids to have a better life than what she had. And so I'm grateful to her for all that she did to support us.
But Bev, listening to Dad and Mom growing up, I think we all can do that voice. We can change the voice and sound like we're from the islands or whatever. I think all of us can do that,
Yeah, it's in our heads.
It's in our heads.
Beverly, this is Julie. I've enjoyed this so much. I read the first book and it really drew me in. I was so fascinated. And I'm wondering now, thinking about the part that you had to make up, the part you had to wonder about. I can't help wondering what would Phyllis's life have been had she not been thrown out like that? Had it not been that her whole self became unacceptable? That they
Exactly.
just had to get rid of her
Yeah,
and shut her down.
and they did.
What would she have been? And also, what was in their lives that made them so vulnerable to society's ideas, so unable to just drop it and keep their child,
Those were the days.
Yeah.
They were the days, that's
And
true.
it was very common at that time
Yes, it
that
was.
pregnancies were handled like this
And
if you were not married.
But in the United States also,
Absolutely.
Yeah. Oh,
that
yeah.
happened absolutely. There
All
was
the time.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, sent to live with aunt, uncle,
That's right.
somebody.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Well, they moved some girls out from the regular schools and put them in different schools because they didn't want the other girls to see that.
Yeah, that's true.
Oh, right,
Yeah.
right.
And I know in Los Angeles, you could have the option to go to a school for pregnant minors, or you could stay in your school and face
Face a lot.
the other children and how they kind of ostracized you.
I don't know if Marcy's still on this call, but this was the topic of her spotlight, was our previous spotlight.
I was thinking of that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, she still faced that situation in our generation.
Yeah.
I'm curious
in the
about
60s.
I'm curious about the name Phyllis. When you go back, oh,
Here's
there's
Marcy.
Here I am.
Hi.
Were you
Hi.
thinking, Marcy, were you
Marcy.
thinking about your own situation?
Yes, I was. And it was, I was thinking too, I had the honor of sitting next to Ben one time. I think it was maybe shortly after your book came out, and you shared with me about your book, and I bought a book from you right on the spot.
Yes.
And I shared some of my story with you, and you encouraged me to also write a book.
Absolutely.
So
Proud of you.
for that. But my situation was happened in the 60s, my pregnancy. So yeah, and it was here in the States, and there was definitely something that I didn't tell my family about. It happened in California, and my family was in another state, so I hid it. I hid everything. But yeah, I really appreciate your book and your story, your writing. It's wonderful. So thank you, and thanks for sharing this with us. And I look forward to seeing you again and again. And I was so happy to have sat with you next at that luncheon.
At that luncheon. It's so nice to see you
And I
again.
bought your book that day.
I love it. I love it.
And you autographed it for me. So thank you.
Okay, sweetie.
Yeah.
I'm curious about the name Phyllis because back 2 generations before this on the island in Jamaica, it just didn't seem like a likely place for a woman to be named Phyllis. Was it common? Had you heard it on the islands before of that generation?
That's an interesting question, but that is her legal name. So I assume when I look in the family tree, I don't see anyone else named Phyllis. So maybe her father, who was quite involved in the industry there, may have met someone else whose child was named that or whose wife was named that. But that is interesting, yes.
Any other questions? We just
You rocked it, Bev.
Thanks, you guys.
Great.
Yeah.
Thank
So
you, guys.
Our next spotlight will be Riwan Meng, who was on the call. I don't know if she's still on, but she's going to join us on May 19th. Riwan was born in China, grew up in China, and studied medicine over there. And then she met her husband and they left China. And now she's a brilliant artist and he's practicing medicine, but she is not. But she's got many family stories to share that I hope you'll all join us for that. And come for Backyard Birds. And then on the 22nd, we have Denise Olgak who's going to do a session in guided meditation. So we can, all of us can learn to, this I understand is, I can't remember, it's month or week, but it's like stress reduction week or month. So, or maybe that's May. But anyway, it's coming up, so we'll all get to practice stress reduction with one of our own members, Denise, who is the daughter-in-law of June Bilgore, who's on the call with us today. So I'm looking forward to that.
Don't forget Jeopardy, May 5th. We're doing it again. Cinco de
Yeah.
Mayo.
Right.
Okay.
Mamas and Margaritas. We'll be celebrating Mothers and Cinco de Mayo and Jeopardy with the
Yay.
Jeopardy questions.
Some of these Jeopardy players are very, very cutthroat. So you be prepared. No, it was a lot of fun. It was so much fun.
We were all very engaged, so we welcome you all back.
Good to
So
see
we're
you,
gonna have
Wendy.
prizes.
Hey, Bev, I love your book. Love your
Thank
book.
you,
I'm going to
sweetie.
get the second book. Yeah.
Okay, honey. Thank you so much, Wendy.
I love the loyalty of your friends and family. Boy, everyone,
Aren't they great?
everyone came out.
They're just great.
Very enviable.
Mom.
I think we had at one point an even 100 people here.
That's great. Oh, that's awesome. Thank you all for coming so much.
Thank you for having it.
Oh,
And
Hi,
then nice to
Mia.
meet you.
thanks, Eddie.
Mia, I think you need to join our club too.
You know, I have been intrigued. Seriously, I'm going to talk to Mom after we get off.
Well, I think that's a yes. Okay.
We have Ebel has a book club and Ebel has a writing club.
They sure do.
Right.
And I've been to some of the writing club meetings.
Oh, well, you have to, you're not a member?
I'm not.
No, not a member of the writing club.
Of the Ebel.
Yeah. Of Ebel, I'm a member of, I'm a member of Ebel and I'm a member of the choir for over 12, 13 years.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Okay, Beverly, thank you. This is Maxie. Thank you for including me in this conversation.
Oh, hi, Maxie. How are you?
Doing just fine. Good to see you guys.
Good to see you too. Take
And,
care.
And hello to all my friends out there who I recognize.
Okay, Maxie.
All right.
Bev, I don't know if you saw Wendy. I think she's not on the call anymore, but she was on the call, Wendy Brown.
Oh, she was.
I saw that.
Oh,
She
how
says
nice.
she said she had to leave.
Okay, I understand.
Yes.
Thank you, guys. You're so
Oh.
special.
All right.
Love you,
Thank
Eddie.
you.
Love you.
Love you.
Okay,
Okay.
excellent.
I think Clarence wants to leave.
No, I don't. I'll talk all evening.
You know, I'm just messing with your brother-in-law.
Oh, okay.
Ready to play some golf. He don't want to listen to more books. He's
Oh, I
ready to play
played golf
golf.
earlier today.
Oh, okay. You got yours in.
Yeah, yeah.
Thanks, you guys. You're so swell, and I appreciate you being in my lives. I'm very grateful.
Okay.
All
Take a
right.
second and save
Just
the
need the
messages
last
so you
one.
can read them later.
Okay.
Oh,
Many compliments in the long string of messages. So
Okay. Thank
can-
you.
there's
Oh,
a function
Mia.
there to save the chat.
All right. Thanks, sweetie.
Mia, Kim bought a book. It's
Okay.
gone.
Yeah. All right. I think we're about
I'm not
finished.
gone. I bought the book. Yes, I did. I'm gonna send it to you for you to sign it, Aunt Bev. I love you. You did a
Love you
great
too,
job.
sweetie. Okay.
Okay.
I know
bye-bye.
you have my first book.
I sure did, and I'm ready to read the second one. It's on.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, sweetie.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye.